Hello, I would like to tell you some secrets about the Les Paul. These are things that I figured out from studying the guitar for the last 14 years of playing one. And there are some things that aren't really common knowledge or misconceptions in some regards. How these really get the most out of them. A lot of the vintage guitars over the years, it's not just the age, but it's also the setup. Learning how to set up an original burst over 50, 60s, 60 years now, yeah. It's hard to believe. But I found that there's some modern interests that people might have overlooked to how to get these to really start sounding more like the original bursts as they sound now. And no guitar is equal, so you're gonna have to set everything up individualized to every guitar. When Gibson hands out setup specs, that's just to make a guitar playable. It's so that they don't buzz or fret out when you bend a string. That has nothing to do with getting the most out of the guitar. And if you go to a luthier and they pull out string gauges, feeler gauges, to try and get these set up to a Gibson spec, just find a different guy. Find somebody like me who uses feel and eye, because I'm a musician too. So I don't just set up a guitar to what somebody else tells me it needs to be set up to. I set it up to what I feel the instrument is getting the most from it. This is static. But one of the main misconceptions I've found over the years are the truss rods. People think that truss rods are for neck relief and only neck relief. And while that's partially true, a properly planed fretboard balanced with the neck tension is going to give you proper relief. You don't really need that. That's just there for mass production purposes. But once you get a guitar like this that you really love, you're gonna spend the time it takes to make it all that it can be, the best that it can be. And I've had this one for 11 years. And she just gets more beautiful, I swear, every time I look at her. Absolutely crazy about that figure. Anyway, on topic. What a truss rod actually does is it balances the vibrations of the neck and the tension of the neck with the tension of the strings. And adding, well, what it's doing in here is bowing upwardly. You will, this is farther down, this is farther down, and then it bows in the middle, and then applies force to the fingerboard. And on 2 key points, curves the neck backwards. Well, a main factor of what that is actually doing is it's adding string tension to your strings by countermassing the strings pull on, or force, or tensile strength, whatever, on the neck. And this is a huge thing that people are missing. The vibrations don't really translate to the body here. We'll get into that a little bit later, but what this does is these strings are resonating. This is then resonating back and forth with those strings. It's wanting to sort of, and based on how that resonates, you can actually manipulate the shape that the string is resonating at as well. But vibrations travel through to here, go to the neck, travel down the neck, to the heel, to the dovetail, to the tenon, to the body. And a proper luthier is going to know this, whether or not they share this information. I have never heard anybody else talk about it. So I had to figure all this out, man, right, to get the most out of this guitar. And while I'm a trained luthier, I haven't built a guitar in 11 years. I do a lot of work for people that can't afford a real shop. A professional luthier, I should say. And, well, the way that you balance this tenon, or the truss rod, really controls how the tension of the strings alters, but also the flex of the neck, to allow vibrations to come to here. And you're not in person, but somebody, if you're at home, I'm not going to take my cover off and actually do it here to demonstrate it. But you'll listen to the headstock, you'll listen to the middle of the neck, and then you'll listen to right over the body where you most like to play. And that'll create different flex points, like a harmonic. A harmonic is a key evenly divided point of the string. And those harmonics, what they're doing is this part of the string is moving, this part is moving, this part is moving. And there's these little points right at the fret where the string is sort of, it's not really resonating like the rest of the string. And when you're building a guitar based on its scale length and its pickup placement, you can put these pole pieces right at key points of certain harmonics to where the string is reaching its center of the subdivisions. So halfway in between the 12th is the main harmonic, right? That's just your octave harmonic. So then this is vibrating, and this part of the string is vibrating. Both of these halves are vibrating at the same rotational pattern, right? And then in the middle is just a point where the string isn't really resonating. It's kind of just standing still. And this is going out, and then that one's going out. And when you pick up, or when you place pickups in their pole pieces, you're going to want to tune the distance to the scale length, but also the tension of that scale length to the neck tension. And you can draw this up to make it a lot easier where the strings are going to most be in all the harmonics resonating at its largest capacity, so that there isn't one harmonic that is just dead at one of these flex points. And what all that has to do is with the key factor of the tension of the wood, the natural tension of the wood as it wants to flex under string tension. And the thickness of your fingerboard greatly plays into this. And the tension of the fingerboard, the shape of the fingerboard is radiused to resist flex of the neck. And it goes into playability, obviously, in bending a string so that you don't fret out. But that's not actually what that was designed for. There are flat neck guitars, and the whole point is that you get this to resonate so that you can manipulate your flex points in your harmonics, and that evens it out. It keeps the string resonating at the same frequency. But when this is properly set up, it will even those points out and prevent the midpoints in those like dead spots in the string's vibration as it's harmonically destabilizing. I don't know the word, but that evens it all out. So there's a lot that goes into this, the secrets of the Les Paul, and why these were exactly set up as they are and built as they are, designed as they are. Now, what you're going to want to do is make sure that your bridges are flat with the top, even all the way across. You don't want one side being farther up. You want it flat down, and these bowl pieces doing their job. Because when the whole system is vibrating, if this is resonating too, then it's just going to die out. This is going to be resonating, this is going to be resonating, and that side's going to be resonating. And if you take a leaf spring, hold it in the middle, and bounce it, that's essentially what it's going to be doing. It's going to be like two opposing leaf springs canceling themselves out. What you really want is this sort of isolated, set up evenly so that every string produces the same tension on that end. You want this side to pull the same and this side to pull the same, because this is going to act as a leaf spring, which counter harmonics the strings to prevent them from canceling themselves out, or the string from sounding weak because it might encounter a harmonic over the bowl pieces. And when this transfers vibrations through the neck to here, there's a lot in this. Okay, there's so much to explain. You can balance how much vibration is in the body by how you neck tension this and set up your frets and your relief after you set up the whole tone of the guitar. You want to balance the vibrations that travel through here and equalize them with what comes out here. So then the whole guitar will resonate doing this. And it takes a lot of practice to get it just right. But there's a simpler way of doing it, and that's stringing your guitar up and loosening the truss rod all the way. The neck will start bowing, and that'll tell you how much you have to work with. The neck will most likely come way too far forward. And that's why these don't sound as good, because that neck is naturally capable of resisting the pull of the strings, the mass of the strings. And as you all know, probably, smaller strings have higher string tension. There's more more energy in them to pull less mass to tension as compared to these, which add string winding to them to create more mass. The actual winding of the string has nothing to do with the tension. It's the core of the string that takes all the tension. And so you're not here to feel it, but this one, my guitar, which I've done custom work on, I've done all the frets, everything to get this sound as good as it is. You might want to asymmetrically circumference your fingerboard. I don't recommend it. What I like doing is adding that radius into the lower frets to flatten them out, rather than changing this profile, because this is what is designed to counteract the pull, to allow the neck to really function under two tensions of wood. So this has a different tension as the rosewood has a different tension, and then the shape of that plays into how this neck can flex and how far it can flex. And I think I got off trail for my initial thing. It was how vibrations travel through the neck to the body. Now, these were originally designed, solid body guitars were designed by Les Paul, as you all probably know, to prevent feedback. And the feedback comes from the pickup resonating with the top of an arch top, because these are electrical generators. That's exactly what they are. It's a pickup, it's a bobbin, and then you have a material sitting in a magnetic field creating an electromagnetic signal, and that's read as tone and sound. But that's the reason why you don't need batteries in these. And if anybody knows anything about electromagnetic generators, the generator can't sustain you can apply torque to the rotor and it won't just keep spinning. It needs a constant application of force. So that resistance goes into the string too. Every time you pluck one of these, they're not just going to isolate and resonate forever. So how you set up your magnets and the distance of the magnets from the string really impacts how much this will resonate and how long it'll resonate for, which is a great ability for the string to sustain. when you get these just set up right in the pull pieces, and keeping these pull pieces with the other pull pieces of the other bobbins, and how you can balance that all to keep the string resonating controlled from this point to this point in the harmonics, so that you can control the shape of the string as it's vibrating a little bit, not a lot. But that also goes into with what the neck is doing to harmonically. So then once this is creating a more oval shape, this is rotating and vibrating at that exact moment to even out the rotation of the string. Now, the reason why you want this body to resonate as much as possible with the neck is because that subtle vibration is what gets a pickup to boom and feedback. Not just the amp boosting its signal, but these will boom because of that. So there's another factor too, that the tension of the bobbin coil, how the string is laid around the bobbin, also manipulates, because that's why everybody's wax potting, right? Well, a properly made, handmade pickup by a master winder from the old days, I'm guessing this is exactly what they would do, is that they would control that feedback so that the bobbins are just tight enough that it wants to feedback, which boosts its signal. And then with this, also actuating and slightly vibrating this just ever so much that this is resonating around it, and this is sort of resonating in there, that the flaw of the arch top and why we needed solid body guitars is used at a smaller, just a tiny little scale, so that it's not moving dramatically, but just enough that that feedback comes. And when you hear a Les Paul start to really come at you, it's because every one of these things is perfectly balanced, and it takes a long time to master. It's something I've studied and focused on for as long as I've been playing a Les Paul. And there are a couple other little tricks. I think I got into why the PAFs are so voiceful and present. It's also because the magnets over time, see, electromagnetic generators, they don't last because they're converting the electrons that are cycling in the field, because there is a mass destabilization between the quantum atmosphere of the electron field, the density of that, and then the mass of the nucleus and the positive charges that allows the electrons to sort of come out farther and farther. And this is all because of quantum atomic density, which is a physics theory that who knows if it'll ever get proven. Maybe I'm wrong, huh? But that's the only way I can figure out magnets. Anyway, now I tried sweeping up, getting rid of all that solder in there. I don't know what solder they use on these, but it is not the lead-based 6040 that the rosin and flux core that I use. Anyway, there are some tricks here. If you look really close, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look good, does it? Why would you do that? Anyway, electrons alternating and direct current travel differently through a wire, as you probably know. So when you're using direct current, you want every wire's end to match up together, so the signal traveling through the core has no material to change direction from. This goes right into the tab. This one I leave a little off so that it has to travel through the solder. And why is that? Well, these were way too long. I wasn't getting any purity whatsoever. My guitar was sounding like poop. The bridge pickup wouldn't keep up with the neck, and the neck was just booming, and that does not look good. But the solder is perfectly fine. because I'm working with 2 types of solder here, and my copper braid won't absorb it as much as it should. So you want as little material for your signal to travel through, and that equates to signal decay. Now, the shorter this grounding wire, the shorter these connecting wires are. I haven't done this one yet because this pickup sounds freaking fantastic. But there was way too much grounding wire. It was just astronomical. I took that, made it the shortest it could be. Make that as short as you can be. That as short as it can be. Everything. So that the signal has as little decay as possible. Think of it like a Ferrari cutting weight, right? And even this is too long for me. I would like that to go straight to it, which I haven't done that yet. But and then there's another consideration with radio frequencies and how our guitars act as antennae, and maybe there's some way to turn that into a incoming power source that boosts your signal. That I have no idea how to do. I haven't figured that out yet. But this guitar sounds fantastic now. It's taken a long time to really get the most out of it, to align all these little variables and things. Even the size of the contact surface of your saddles impact how the string will sound, how force is applied to the top, how resonance comes through these, and this is as rigid as possible. There's no flex, there's nothing. That's to keep every vibration that comes through the bridge as small as possible, so they don't, the big vibrations, the ones that really get the neck flexing, are what get a guitar to sound loud. They have a lot of that presence that a lot of instruments have lost, is because Gibson does not ship a guitar set up this way. It takes way too long. You have to figure out the tension of the wood, the strings that you want to tune it to, tune the whole tension system to. And I recommend as little truss rod as possible, but it can help. If the wood is too weak, then it's just gonna move way too much. And while it might sound open, what that's going to do is translate to your action. You're not going to be able to have this sort of action that I have, which right now is a little high. What was that? Someone did something. Like maybe my nut wasn't. What the hell? Where are my strings seating on my nut? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I was going to play it a little bit, but I think something bad just happened. I heard that snap when I applied pressure to it, which means that the nut wasn't sitting all the way down somehow, and now these are touching for some reason. And my nut was perfect, so I don't understand why that would be doing that. Around the outside, so it doesn't look like it's... That's when I'm fitting one side. Both sides are just like that. But there's no need to groove. You know, you groove one side down and then make it fit. But I think that's everything other than what, top wrapping does. That's about adding string length. It makes the guitar a little more open, loose sounding. Hate to say Strat sounding, but when you pull these pull pieces up instead of pickup up like this, you get a balance between humbucking thickness and gain with a little bit of single coil tension to it. It really makes a just sweet open pickup tone. And I don't know if playing it would matter, but you can maybe hear what I am trying to talk about. That's just a light pluck, but see, you hear how it's just sustaining, right? And you're not here to feel this, but the neck itself maybe you can hear it vibrate through the speaker. This would be an interesting way to have some sort of resonance spectrometer to read the vibrations in the body, certain areas of the body. That's my foot, but I'm touching my phone to my guitar, and then you can see so my guitar, I have balanced it so that the neck, the headstock, everything, and the body all resonate at the same sense and feel, which I've had to loosen the truss rod a little bit more, so my release is actually higher than it normally could be, and my action can go really low. But I'd always notice how a slightly higher action would allow the string to resonate more, and that's because of the tension that you can apply to the string with the truss rod. But when you start really getting this going and you start beating on it, having a good time, it will boost and feedback and then get, do the whole thing, and it wouldn't do that before. So with the stock setup, this guitar it didn't just happen to be one of the good sounding ones that you find in the store. Any Les Paul can be made to sound like this. Where hide glue and the hardness of the finish come into play is also with resonance. So the hardness of the finish is going to act on the pickup rings. The softer the finish, the less the pickup rings are going to vibrate, and you want those pickups to just ever so slightly vibrate at such a high frequency that what it does is it starts boosting the signal, and this whole thing is just sitting in its own little isolation of vibration. And hide glue especially because a lot of these are sanded by sandpaper to a special grit, and you can get close, but there's a reason why good luthiers use knives. It's because it cuts through the grain. It doesn't leave micro fractures of the wood fibers, and the groove of the sandpaper really prevents the wood from having as close of a joint as possible. And the tighter the joint, the more the wood itself is going to translate vibrations, and the wood's going to work together, and there ain't going to be any creep in the wood when tension is applied to different directions, which for a fingerboard is a key factor. You want a fingerboard made with hide glue, the top made with hide. Everything should just be made with hide glue, but aliphatic resin, and how, say, if you were to have only this, be hide glue, and then the top be aliphatic resin. And with a softer finish, the vibrations are going to travel through this into the body and resist traveling to the pickup rings, and that is going to dampen your signal boosting. And so just remember, vibrations in the string travel up to the headstock to apply leverage force on that point right there, which then travels down the neck into the body, and everything needs to resonate just to get these to do their thing the best. And when you really beat on this now, it will start doing what it should. Sounds horrible. See, there's a little flaw left to work out in how this neck evens out the harmonic instability. So when I hit this, it'll sustain. You hit this, and it'll die out pretty quickly. See? It's dying out. And this is because halfway between that and that, just somewhere around there in the shape of the curve and how it's farther up from the pole piece or whatever else it is with the neck vibrating. Pretty good sustain. There you go. Now you'll hear it. It changes. That's because the resonance of the string is changing its shape as it's vibrating. And like I said, the tension, the pickup heights, and how that acts on that side and that based on distance from its anchor point, and its applied tensile force controls how the shape of the string resonates along with how the neck resonates back and forth. Well, so I don't know, desirable. Ideally, you just want that to boost itself and keep going. And you don't want that frequency or harmonic imbalance there that later it starts. I mean, it does add a cool effect if you like that. I like it sometimes. Other times I want it to be perfect. nut, but it seems to have dropped down ever so slightly, and somehow it wasn't flush with the bottom of this fret slot here. Come on, focus. So now it's buzzing. But I like this nut. I don't want to get rid of it. This is a thing you can do, is make a little bone shim and use hide glue, just as long as it's buffed to a exceptional smoothness. You can get away with bone shims when you're, but it's going to be so thin. It's just a few thousandths. That comes partially from your tubes, but all the things that I was talking about, how you get that just a tad bit of feedback, and that's from the pickups, that old flaw used to an advantage, and that's everything.